Hello, good citizens. My name is Dan, and today is June 13th, 2020. I'm here with my friend Bruce Dean, and this is going to be part of the Duncan RCMP evaluation video, the follow-up to the fundamental freedom evaluation that Bruce was the backup cameraman way back in June 22nd, 2018. And for those of you that have watched the video, you watched as the Duncan RCMP used Bruce's medical marijuana as a reason to ID him. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to watch that video and say, well, he failed because he gave his ID and he didn't have to, and he could have resisted, or if he had a gun, he could have shot him, or something dumb like that. So just want to debunk all those dumb comments that I'm sure are coming down the pipeline. And we're going to speak with Bruce here and get his side. He did explain it in the video, but I just want to make sure that we're very clear on this for people who don't take clear information very easily. So, Bruce, can you tell us just briefly where are we? What is this room and what is it for?
This room is one of two rooms that I grow marijuana in. This is my flowering room, where I bring the plants into flower before I can harvest them and make the medication out of them.
Okay. So you must have some sort of license or something to do with medical marijuana?
Yeah, I've got one of the oldest licenses in Canada to grow medical marijuana and to possess and use medical marijuana. I've had it for somewhere around 17 years, give or take. And so I've been legal to grow over that. And I grow it to deal with several issues. Initially, I got the license for my disability, which is listed twofold as osteoarthritis, and then also for chronic pain that goes with the osteoarthritis. And so I grow it for that, but it replaces all sorts of medications. I'm supposed to be on 24/7 opioids to deal with the pain. That's a standard treatment for me. And then you have to be on anti-inflammatories and then medication to protect my liver from the anti-inflammatories. And then the opioids, I've got a very addictive personality, so that would be no good. I'd be an opioid addict right now for sure. I've been doing this for nearly 20 years, this disability. Okay.
And so this is this isn't something that you do just to kind of have a party. This is something that's necessary. You also have sort of like a double knee disability. How did that happen?
Teaching skiing up in Whistler, and I saw a woman about to be severely injured, and so I dropped my poles and pulled myself up the ski hill by the ski tow cable, and I saved the woman. And but in saving her, I became disabled, blew up both my knees. My career was no more. My knees were no more, and I've had excess of 20 surgeries so far on my knees alone. The right one's been replaced. Left one is needing replacement, but I don't like the fake knee in my right one, so I want to delay this. Hopefully there's going to be better technology coming up.
And I think you said earlier there's part of the reason why you have this medical marijuana is not only just because of that injury from that search and rescue that left you permanently disabled, but you also use this medical marijuana for cancer as well. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I'm in the throes of my second battle with cancer. The first one was melanoma. They were able to fix that one with surgery and pretty fast. So I never really had to get into any other treatments for it. And they caught it in time before it metastasized. But then I came up with prostate cancer, and that's quite a severe one, advanced stage 3. I was scheduled for radiation treatment, and I was scheduled also for treatment surgery. And then if those failed, I was going to be looking at doing chemotherapy after that. But they didn't have high hopes for me. So, as soon as I got diagnosed, I went home and I started producing Phoenix Tears, hemp oil, out of my medical marijuana. I pumped up my production of plants. It's all still legal count-wise, but I needed to make more so I could make the hemp oil, and I'm using the hemp oil, and it appears like it's helping me beat the cancer, but even still to this day, I'm not all clear yet. It was so severe. I think they're surprised. Well, I know they're surprised they didn't have to do the surgery on me yet, and they just don't like to admit that medical marijuana can do so much. But I depend upon it to keep me cancer-free and keep me alive. And then there's other issues too. I've also got rosacea really bad on my nose. There's a bit of acting up now. It gets worse in the sun. But I normally need medication for that. I don't need any medication since I've been doing my my cancer treatments with my medical marijuana. It's cleared that up too. Also, like poverty teeth, whatnot, it's helped fix with that stuff. So it's just amazing what it's been doing for me. So it helps me keep me alive, and it helps keeps me healthy.
And do you have to carry any sort of like credentials or license
Oh, yeah.
or anything around with
Yeah.
you? Could
For
you
both
go into that a little bit?
For sure. I have to carry around with me, well, the one to get out of the way quickly is this. I have this one here. It's a cancer card from the BC Cancer Agency that shows that I've been through radiation treatment, and it's still valid to this day because the radiation pellets in me can cause problems for babies and pregnant women and whatnot. And if I'm crossing the border, I have to notify them, things like that. But then also for the marijuana, I have to have a license. This is my medical marijuana license. This is, well, it's an old expired one, but they're in good shape, so I can still use them because they don't give out licenses anymore. They give you a piece of paper that you're supposed to carry around in your wallet, but you're not supposed to photocopy the paper because then it's an illegal document. But they tell you to carry a photocopy because the original one won't last the year. So,
And so this room, this looks to me like a lot of work. Who does all this for you?
slave labor, and that's me. They won't cover my medical marijuana, but they will cover opioids. I'll get all the opioids I want. I could drown in opioids if I wanted to, but they won't cover it. So I have to somehow on my poverty budget they pay me on. I live way below the poverty line. The reward for saving that woman, I think. But so I'm living poor. I can't afford to buy as much marijuana as I need to be able to fight cancer, to fight off Alzheimer's, which I use it to do. I forgot to mention that earlier. And then also to deal with my chronic 24/7 pain. This replaces the opioids for it. So it's a lot of work. And I have to garden at nighttime because of the heat problems in the day. So I can't even have friends come help me garden because it's all during I have to garden usually around midnight till 2 or 3 in the morning every night. So it's a lot of work. It's hard on my body, but it's well worth it and way better than being on the opioids.
So you're physically disabled, both knees.
Yeah.
And you've got other issues too with pain and joints and stuff like that. And you've gone through a second round of fighting cancer, and you have to do all of this work yourself.
All this work myself, yeah.
Wow.
And no assistance, not any cost covered at all. It's just the labor is all mine. It's very labor intensive doing this, very labor intensive making the Phoenix Tears hemp oil, and costly to make that too. If anyone's ever had to buy it, you'll know it's not cheap stuff.
And this room looks like it's sort of custom built. Who built this for you?
I had to build it myself, install it all around, and every time BC Housing moves me, I have to rebuild and redo the room.
Okay. And so most people don't know this, but you live in a one-bedroom apartment, and this is the one bedroom. So what's going on? Where you don't sleep in here, do you?
No, I sleep beside my mobility aids and beside my computer out in the living room. It's a very crowded room. When I have guests over, I have to fold up my bed so the guests have someplace to sit.
Wow. And now on that day that we were at the Duncan RCMP detachment, that was June 22nd, 2018. On that day, you would know this, was marijuana decriminalized in Canada at that point?
Well, it was sort of an in-between phase because yes, it had been decriminalized, and the police had already were already backing off people not doing busts for it because they knew it was coming up legal. I think it was just shy of 3 months away for the actual date in October 14th for some reason, I think, but whatever the date was in October for when it actually turned legal. So it was legal for the entire country to smoke recreationally, just for fun if they wanted to. For everybody could do it then. Medically, I've been legal for a decade and a half plus.
And so the Duncan RCMP, they approached you. It was a man and a woman. The man is Corporal Stephen Merrick. We know that. And after talking to you for a couple of minutes, they tried to get your identification. They asked you several times, and
tried really hard.
Yeah. So it was almost like they were going on a fishing expedition.
Oh.
And after a couple of minutes, the woman said she smelt marijuana, and they immediately turned that odor of marijuana into you having possibly committed some sort of an offense that you're going to have to now ID yourself over.
Yeah.
And you knew something about your sort of credentials and your license about your medical marijuana. and that's something that you can't really play games with, and you can't really decline to provide to the police with the credentials that you have. As far as I understand it, you've explained it to me before, and you've explained it to the police before. But can you explain it to the viewers, specifically why you felt that you were absolutely obligated to cooperate with the police over the marijuana that you had on your person and that you were smoking?
Oh, for sure. I think the best way to think about it is to think about if you had a loved one who's beat a cancer that they weren't supposed to beat. If you know a loved one who's died from a cancer that was so serious, you'll know how important this medication is to me. And so I need this medication to stay alive. And the one rule about this medication that I'm confident those RCMP officers, they're federal law, they know the federal laws. I've been legal for 17 plus years. They know the law by now. They know that I'm required on the license, it says right there, that the police ask me for anything about my marijuana, I must cooperate with police. Anybody else I can tell doesn't take a fly. But the police ask me about marijuana, I have to produce proof of it or answer their queries about it. And so, or else I'm going to lose my license. And if I lose my license, I don't get to reapply for it again. That means I'm on opioids or I'm doing illegal medical marijuana. And I couldn't be growing this, so I couldn't afford it. I'd either have to steal for it or I'd have to just take the opioids that they try to force on me.
So, if I got you, if I heard you right, it was sort of an issue that you had to produce some sort of ID, and you had to sort of cooperate with them because you were smoking it for medicinal purposes, and you were licensed. And it's kind of sounds similar to me, that almost like you were sort of not the same scenario, but similar to like if you were pulled over in a car and you had a driver's license, you are now obligated to produce that. Is that how you felt about your marijuana license?
Oh yeah, and it's made very clear when you get a license that you must cooperate with police. You can't play games. You can't pretend you don't have a license. You can't, whatever. You have to tell them, if they ask you questions, you must cooperate, or it's just plain right out, you will lose your license.
So you had a lot to lose.
Oh yeah.
If you were going to decline to provide ID, because let's face it, the way they were going, they were probably going to arrest you or do something because you had medical marijuana on you. And if I'm sure the authorities that are governing your license find out about this, they could revoke your entire license altogether. Do I have that right?
100% right. I would have lost. They might as well, if they didn't know about the marijuana or have an inkling about it, they might as well pull a gun out and held it to my head and demanded to see my ID identified. That's what basically they did. They threatened my life by wanting to take away my medication that keeps me from being addicted, that keeps me alive.
Yeah, because without your medical marijuana license, you wouldn't be able to legally grow this in your own home.
No way.
Under BC housing. No. Is that right?
Oh yeah, and the hemp oil alone would probably cost me 2 or 3 times what I make in a month for a month's supply of it.
Yeah.
It's literally impossible for me to afford. That's the one group that the Canada forgot about or ignored when they legalized it recreationally. It was like, oh yeah, we're going to make tax money. They forgot about the medical marijuana users. And so they left us high and dry, and so now all our costs, everything went up because now it's recreational and federal license. So it was a slap in the face to us and left us really at risk financially, especially disabled people who are forced into poverty by the government like myself. And
did you make any complaints about this to the RCMP?
Oh yeah. They're still ongoing. I have a complaint before the Civilian Review Complaints Commission. That's the federal agency that investigates RCMP complaints. And although they want to shut the investigation down fast, RCMP is refusing to cooperate with FOI requests, Freedom of Information requests for documents. And the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal is cooperating with me now, but initially they were rushing me and wanting to dismiss my complaint on account of grammar. They thought that this professional awarded writer didn't know how to fill out a form properly, so they wanted to cancel. But thankfully I've got a fellow in there I think is running the file fair, and he's still waiting for the evidence. RCMP was the Civilian Review Complaints Commission was too impatient to wait for the RCMP to comply with FOIs, even though they know fully well that the RCMP is under fire for failing to honor FOIs, especially honor FOIs within the designated time frame, and they just don't. So the RCMP is just, again, criminal, defund.
So, if I get that right, the civilian agency that handles the RCMP complaints, they basically have somewhat tossed your complaint because the RCMP could not or refused to obligate your Freedom of Information Act requests.
Correct.
About the that day and other days around that day. Is that right?
Yeah, totally, yeah, totally. All
Wow.
these government agencies just aren't doing their job, and they're not meeting deadlines. They just do what they want, but they hold you strict to all your deadlines. And you got, I smell marijuana.
and you mentioned something earlier just now about a human rights tribunal. So.
Yeah.
You made a human rights tribunal complaint over the RCMP forcing you to ID because of your medical marijuana.
Oh yeah,
is that right?
Oh yeah, because they can't do that. They can't force me to violate my charter rights, my fundamental freedoms by producing identification when I'm not required to, and they did it using my medication for my disability. And that's discrimination against my disability. I've won complaints over this before in the Human Rights Tribunal, although they've been before the BC Human Rights Tribunal, our province here. But this complaint, and I did file it originally with the BC Human Rights Tribunal, but they called me and told me that it's a federal agency. But I was very happy with that because now I got to turn it into a federal complaint about this, and so that's got more cachet.
And do you happen to know, is that federal Human Rights Tribunal complaint against the RCMP for forcing you to ID yourself over your medical marijuana, is that actually moving forward?
Well, it's been stalled because they're again waiting for evidence from the RCMP, who refuses to honor 3 written requests so far from the Freedom of Information requests for them. They've refused they responded once basically saying they wanted more info, and I said, no, you don't need more info. My whole file, everything, dude. You don't have a right on this. You have to give me my whole file. And they wanted to try to reduce it down to some dates for, I think it's just really obstruction. They just don't want to avoid, because that's what the RCMP do. If you look up RCMP and Freedom of Information requests on Google, you'll see that they are despicable for not honoring citizens' rights.
Yeah, I think I've read a quote, 1 to 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And then they give you 6 months for your Civilian Review Complaints Commission to get evidence in, and 6 months for your Canadian Human Rights Tribunal to get all the information in. Yet the RCMP won't cooperate and give evidence for 3 years. So
wow.
How can you win? You know,
yeah.
You just can't. The system is rigged. You know.
So let's say best case scenario, you get that Freedom of Information Act request tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's Sunday, but say Monday,
yeah.
And would that then allow that Human Rights Tribunal complaint against the RCMP to move forward?
Hey, oh yeah, for sure, and it would probably reinvigorate the Civilian Review Complaints Commission against the RCMP too. The police investigation into them.
Right. And so, could you tell us, like, with your physical disabilities, your knees specifically, how do you get around day to day? Like, if you have to go to the store or something, like, what do you do?
Well, limp really bad in pain, or I have a bunch of different mobility aids, everything from a cane to longboards. Electric longboards are prescribed for me, and bicycles and electric bicycles. I have 2 very cool electric chopper bicycles that I use for getting around.
Cool. Well, thanks for answering my questions and clearing up. I know what a lot of the comments are going to start saying about you providing ID when they see that video. That's unfortunate, but that's how it goes. So that's why we're making this video, to clear that up. Well, thanks again, Bruce. So check out Bruce's channel. I'll leave a link in the description. It's called Photo Warrior Fundamental Freedom Evaluations. And you can check out his super awesome videos that he makes. Thanks for clearing all this up, and thanks for hanging out there, Bruce.
No problem. Thanks for the questions.
Yeah, you bet.
Keep it up.
You bet.